morning to all of you. Honorable Karu Jayasuriya, Speaker, Honorable Ministers of Justice from Commonwealth countries, Honorable Attorneys General, distinguished delegates, officials from the Attorney General's Department, Minister of Justice, and Minister of Foreign Affairs, and ladies and gentlemen. First, let me introduce myself. I am Dhammika Dasanayaka, Secretary General of Parliament. At the very inception, let me say that we are honored and privileged to have your presence here in Parliament today. And I also had the privilege of attending your inaugural session on Monday, which I think set the tone for a very fruitful and constructive discussions, which I am informed you had over the last 3 days. So today now you are in Parliament and you have just seen our chamber. So I thought it would be appropriate for me to say few things about Parliament, but of course I will not take a long time. Now this building that we are in is situated in our administrative capital, which we call Sri Jayawardhanapura Kotte. Because where your hotel is, it is the commercial capital, which is Colombo. But now you are in the administrative capital of Sri Jayawardhanapura Kotte. So we shifted over to this particular building in 1981, and this particular building was designed by a very famous architect of Sri Lanka. I think you would have heard his name, is Geoffrey Bawa. So this building resembles, according to his concept, a monastery. We are surrounded by a lake, which is Diyawanna Lake, and so we have been here for the last 37 odd years. Well, if I say a few things about our Parliament, we closely follow the Westminster model, because in 1948, when we got our independence, we also inherited the British style of parliamentary governance. But of course, even though we still follow almost the same standing orders, there have been occasions where we have modernized and changed the standing orders to suit our parliamentary requirements. And recently also we had the occasion to do that. So we have, the Parliament consists of 225 members who are elected for a period of 5 years. So it's a multi-party system, and the two main parties are coalitions, and just like the British model, the government sits on the right side and the opposition sits on the left side. We don't have long recesses. Every month we sit for 2 alternate weeks. So if we sit the first week, then we sit the third week. So every month we sit, and then during the budget period, which normally falls in November and December, we sit at a stretch for about 1.5 months. So if you look at the number of days that we sit, we have a reasonably high number of days that the Parliament sits. So on the average, we we pass, or we enact around 40 to 50 new pieces of legislation, and of course there are so many other regulations that we passed during any particular year. And also we have, I think our Parliament had the highest number of committees when you compare with other Commonwealth parliaments. So actually the number of committees would be around 70 in our parliament. Now I would like also to very briefly inform, because it may interest you, some of the recent developments that have taken place in our parliament, especially in the context of how and what we have done to enrich our legislation, the laws that we have passed. Now, at the time we got our independence, we inherited, as I informed you, a set of standing orders that were evolved by the British government for us, and some other aspects that were there did not help us to encourage public participation. For instance, if I give you an example, the committees were meeting in camera. So there was no opportunity for the civil society and the public to participate in committee deliberations. And there were no media coverage, so the people virtually had to approach their representatives if they had any concern about the workings of Parliament. However, recently we have changed some of the provisions in the standing orders to allow public access, and also to establish some committees which facilitate the public participating in the work of Parliament. Now, if I may say something about the first aspect, opening the committees, what we have done is that we have fixed cameras, the television cameras in Parliament, and also we have invited the civil society and the public who are interested to come and participate in committee proceedings. And I must say, in the recent past, we have observed that some of the committee proceedings are even more popular than the plenary sessions, because that is where all the, the important matters, then the controversial matters, various, accounts, various shortcomings are being discussed. So we are very much encouraged by this change, because we have we have drawn a lot of public attention, especially because of the opening up of committees. Then secondly, we have also established some new committees. They are now the most effective set of committees that we have established are called sectoral oversight committees. I think in some of your parliaments also, you have the department-related committees. So sectoral oversight committees are also very much similar. So they have been divided into 16 thematic areas, and all ministries and departments would come under one of these committees, and any matter that the Parliament would be discussing will first be referred to these committees. The most important thing is that even though before these new committees were introduced, the committees discussed only about the legislation and the regulations that were forwarded by various government institutions. The sectoral oversight committees have a very wide mandate. They can also go into the issue of updating laws, coming up with new laws, then also formulating policies which actually amounts to running a parallel system of governance with the executive. So these are some of the key developments that we have put in place, and also we have improved our website to be an interactive website, providing access and providing an instrument or a system for public to come to share information with Parliament. So these are, and also we have enhanced our technological skill ability, and the technological what shall I say, the infrastructure to enable public to easily communicate with Parliament. So if you look at the South Asian countries, we are very proud to say, in respect of technology, we are very much ahead, or at least in par with some of the main parliaments that we have in other countries in South Asia. So these are some of some of the things that we have done in the past, which I thought will interest you, because I know as Ministers of Justice you are very much interested in the area of updating laws and coming up with new laws, where laws are sort of a reflection of what the public would ask the government to enact. So in these respects, I think we have advanced a lot from the time that we got our independence in 1948. So I won't take much time. So I thought this little bit of information will be interesting for all of you. And let me again, on behalf of the Honourable Speaker and the Parliament, welcome you to Parliament. And I hope you would have already had a very enjoyable time in Sri Lanka, and I hope that you will have little more time to enjoy our culture, our scenic beauty, and a little bit of opportunity to travel around. So thank you, and welcome again.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. May I extend a very warm and affectionate welcome to all of you. And I would like to thank the Commonwealth Secretariat for arranging this visit. And for us, it's a great privilege and honor. We are also very proud to be members of the Commonwealth. Since Secretary General gave you a detailed explanation about the working on the Parliament, so I thought I will touch a little bit, because this is not going to be a very long meeting, but I thought, as much as I welcome you, also tell you a little bit of the system here, and also the history of the parliamentary democracy. We have 71 years of post-independence regime. We got independence in 1948 from British rule. It might interest you to know that the Sri Lanka women get universal suffrage long before Britain gave it. And also it so happened that we produced the world's first woman Prime Minister. And having said that, we are very unhappy that we have very limited representation of women in the Sri Lanka Parliament. It's one of the lowest in the world. We are trying to rectify that. And during the 71 years of post-independence period, we went through several obstacles. For example, we got independence in 48. In 1960s, we had 2 unsuccessful military coups. Then in the 70s and 80s, we had 2 youth insurrections where about 40,000 young people were killed. Then from 1983 onward till 2009, we had the fierce terrorist group operating here. So in fact, Sri Lanka's forward journey has been disturbed and disrupted and destroyed by all these events. So in that sense, we are unfortunate. But anyway, 2009, terrorist activity was suppressed, and we have been, of course, looking forward to give our people a better quality of life, and also to recoup the losses of development that we had to forego due to these unfortunate incidents. And since independence, Sri Lanka went through three changes, political changes. First in 1956, where the power moved on from the elite and the Western educated group to a middle class and rural people. That is in 1956. Then in 77, there was another change where a new regime came up where they looked at more instead of a closed economy. Since 56, there was more or less a closed economy. It came up with open economy. And that open economy opened the country for foreign investments. And there was a rapid development in the economic area. But once again, as I said in 83, we had this unfortunate terrorist activity that put back the whole effort that we are making. Because when the country was opening up, because of the racist activities, there was destruction, loss of life, and actually the country suffered a lot because of that. Not only human lives, but also the property, and also in many respects internationally we suffered. Then came 2015, the third change came in when people were crying for more democracy, rule of law, and things like that. And therefore, at the time, the opposition, and we also had a leading Buddhist monk. In fact, today was his birthday. We had a remembrance for him. He was equivalent to Bishop Tutu, who led this movement for democratic reforms. So when it came for the presidential elections in 2015, the opposition and the civil movement went before the people and asked the people to give a mandate for 100 days. And they pledged that during that 100 days, they will restore democracy, they will give more freedom of speech and the rule of law. So then came 100 days, they gave of course it took a little more than 100 days, and that was the presidential elections, and just after that was the parliament elections. The parliament elections was faced with a lot of reforms, and especially the executive presidency that we had at that time were the most powerful presidents in the world, most powerful. You can't criticize the president, and they are above law. But of course some of these wide powers were reduced in 2015. And 2015, once again, we went for parliament election. And the parliament elections, the two main political parties, the present President's Party and the present Prime Minister's Party, they contested separately. And it so happened that at the election, no party got a working majority. So therefore, everybody thought that this is a God-sent opportunity. And a lot of people in the civil society and all that, they encourage the two main political parties to work together. For the first time in the history of Sri Lanka, we tried this experience of a national government or the government of national reconciliation. But it was, I always say that it was not a love marriage, but the circumstances forced the two political parties to work together. President from one side, President people, and the Prime Minister's people, and several other small parties all joined together, formed a cabinet. Until last year, we worked together. When there were a few ones who say, well, when it's not a love marriage, as you know, arranged marriages have these problems. So we have disagreements, we have hiccups, misunderstandings. And we found that particularly with regard to the economic policy, there have been wide disparity. Of course, we should have agreed before we signed the agreement, before we went to the marriage, because I know India, when they had a similar situation, they had what you call the Common Minimum Program. I think it was Prime Minister Manmohan Singh's time or somewhere. And the 18 parties got together with a Common Minimum Program. We agreed for the 5 years, we have agreed this is the policy. But in our case, it so happened that the President's Party believed in a state-led growth, and the Prime Minister's party believed in the private sector-led growth. So there was a basic disagreement on policy, what you're going to do with national assets, when it came to sort of selling some of the government assets, or when you're selling some of the loss-making bodies, there was this misunderstanding. Therefore, it resulted in the marriage getting doomed, and last year we separated. They separated. And of course, some of them left the party, some of them, of course, joined the opposition, some of them remain with the, because I must say that opposition also, when President formed this political party, not all joined him. Some of them of his party contested separately. They also remained a very strong opposition. They got the majority in the opposition. So therefore, that didn't last, but it so happened that within the next few days, just after 1 week, we'll have the presidential election. And then the constitution is such that at the end of the duration of the parliament is 5 years, but the president is given power to dissolve the parliament at the end of 4.5 years. So we'll probably have this up to the new president to either dissolve the parliament in March or go for the full period up to August next year. That yet to be seen. So this is the election year. So practically we are seeing a lot of activity. And of course, when you look back in 2015 with the changes, we are very happy that we have been able to bring a lot of changes in the system. When I said the rule of law, the transparency, good governance, and all those things. We were the first in Asia to propose the Freedom of Information Act in 2003. But of course, it was resisted by then government, but it had to wait till 2015. Now, actually, we have one of the most respected laws with regard to freedom of information, and it's working extremely well. But there, of course, India, it came from the people. People wanted it, but in Sri Lanka, it started from the top, but it's working very well. But also in the governance, we have been, as the Secretary General said, we have so many committees working here, but also with regard to the examination of the government assets. For example, we have a body called Committee of Public Enterprise, COPE, where we given the chairmanship to a member of the opposition, because in the past it was held by a cabinet minister. And we thought if a cabinet minister holds it, he will try to safeguard your own government, and we have given it to a member of the opposition. They are extremely well. They are very strict. They have shown results, and the bringing of the Freedom of Information Act and these laws and the powers that we have given to these committees, where now they are even allowed to invite the media, and it has become very, very popular with the people. Then also we have a committee on to examine the public accounts. We had a system in the good old days where the accounts came to the parliament 10, 12, 15 years later. But now just after the end of the year, within a matter of months, all the accounts come to the parliament. So there is transparency, there is scrutinizing of these accounts. Every account of the government is being very thoroughly checked by this committee. So we are very happy that we have brought about these changes. Then also with regard to the appointment, for example, we have created something called the Constitutional Council. The Constitutional Council chaired by the Speaker, with the Prime Minister is the opposition, 3 civil representatives and 3 MPs to represent minor interests and the small parties. So this is the committee that is selecting the highest level appointments, from the Chief Justice to police IGP and Supreme Court judges, and all these things are appointed by that. So there is transparency. Of course, the names come from the President, of course, based on various recommendations get, but it must get the approval of the Constitutional Council. There have been occasions where the Council was in disagreement with the names, and we were reluctantly compelled to reject some of the names that have come. And when it comes to high appointments, we have what you call the Committee of High Posts. Any senior position, even the selection of ambassadors, they have to come before the Committee of High Posts, which comprises of members of Parliament from all shades of political opinion in the Parliament. We insist on 3 documents. One is we need, before an ambassador is cleared, we need a police report about his good behavior. Then also we want to ensure that he has paid his income tax. We ask for a tax clearance certificate from the income tax authorities. Thirdly, we also ask for bill of health. So on the bill of health, we had a problem because that certificate also entails one portion about the, that was AIDS, no? AIDS, yeah, AIDS thing. And that some members made the application that is against human rights, so we had to delete that part. But yet we are getting this medical bill of health. So we have found that when we send ambassadors abroad, there are people who are cleared by the police, cleared by the income tax, and cleared by the health, and they can serve the nation. Similarly, we have the oversight committees that with the Secretary General has mentioned have become very, very popular. Because here the only difference is that here the 50% of the chair of the oversight committees are given to the opposition. So in effect what we are doing is power sharing. I understand that not even the USA that is given to opposition is all chaired by the government itself. So in some areas we have gone forward. Then we also work very closely with the international community, and Sri Lanka is rated as one of the most advanced parliaments with all the facilities. And also we developed something called the parliamentary diplomacy. And that parliamentary diplomacy is what we thought was that innovation came from Sri Lanka, which was first adopted by the South Asian regional cooperation countries, and then later it has been approved by the whole the parliamentary system as something useful, because we find that when you come to relationship between two countries, what is going on is the head of state to the head of state, and the foreign minister to foreign minister. Beyond that, there is no sort of close cooperation. So what we have now done is that we have started dialogue with the parliaments. We have agreement with several parliaments in the world, where we exchange members of parliament, and also where we exchange officials. So as the parliament, I always believe that we have to train more staff than the parliamentarians, because parliamentarians come for 5 years, but whereas the staff join us for 25, 30 years, so that they could give us service. So these are some of the steps that we have taken, and we are very happy that, so it's possible to, the pledge that we have given to the people about the transparency, good governance, and all that has been given. We have 10 independent commissions. We have the Committee for Public Service. We have a Committee for Bribery and Corruption. Then there is a very powerful Election Commission. You can see they are very strict, they have been very strict, so much so that he once in a way slips his words that if somebody misbehaves, say shoot below the knee. I don't think he meant it, but that is because the election rules are very, very, very strong at the moment. And then we have a Committee for Procurement. Once again, the area where it can be abused. Once again, there are a lot of transparency in this bill that has been now approved. So there are altogether 10 commissions. So all in all these are meant to establish good governance in the country. So this parliament has done its very best. So whether we have given everything that people wanted is yet to be seen. We'll see after the elections. So we'll see. Anyway, once again, these are the few observations that I would like to make. And I hope you will enjoy your stay in Sri Lanka. And the Sri Lankan people are always very warm, very hospitable, very friendly. And Sri Lanka is also called the land of the smiling people. If you look at any Sri Lankan, they will smile. So thank you very much, and enjoy your stay here.